Have you ever felt like you're thinking differently? Have you ever felt like you're the odd one out? Well, good news for you, because this is the number one skill of today's world. And we'll tell you in a bit why that is, because I have an amazing guest here with me today called Dr. Octopus. So stay tuned. Thinking differently is the number one skill in the world. And today, here in the Be the CEO of Your Life live show, I have an amazing guest. But this show is for you if you want to learn more about how you can run your business in less time. And I have all kinds of specialists that tell you everything about what they do and why you need to take notice. And it's up to you whether you decide whether you want to do something with it or not. And I'm very excited because today is here with me, Perry. Perry, can you please introduce yourself to the people watching and listening?
Hi, Yvonne. This is so funny. Two Dutch people doing a conversation in English. So native American speakers, native English speakers are cracking up listening to these two Dutch people having a conversation in English. That's hilarious. Anyway, how do I introduce myself? I'm Perry. I'm weird. I love weird people. I'm the CEO, founder of the Octopus Movement. It's a global movement where we celebrate and create awareness of the awesomeness of people who think differently. And I think different thinkers are very interesting. I think it's really necessary to have different thinkers in this world, but we will talk about that. So that's what I do.
I love it. And yes, it is indeed. Everybody who listens to us immediately picks up that we're both Dutch, but you know, that's a mere coincidence. So, you know, thinking differently, how did you start the Octopus Movement? And I got so many things I want to ask, but let's start with how did you start the Octopus Movement and why?
Well, why? I have no idea what exactly happened that I was thinking, now I'm going to create the Octopus Movement. But one event before I started everything was that a good friend of mine in the Netherlands, Theo, sent me an article about creative generalists. And we're both like that, right? And he sent me that article and I was reading it. He's an entrepreneur, I was an entrepreneur. And I was reading that article. I was cracking up and I said to him, yeah, I don't recognize myself in this. And he was laughing. And we were making jokes about being creative and being a creative generalist. And then a good friend of mine, Aaron Meyer in Brussels, said to me, wait a second, that's not a creative generalist, that's a multi-potentialite. And when I heard that word the first time, I was thinking, oh, multi what? I had to write it down. What is this? And I looked it up, and there's a TED talk of Emily Wapnick about multi-potentiality, and I watched that show or speech or whatever you want to call it, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I recognize a few things from that. Not that I immediately said, I'm a multi-potentialite, but I thought it was interesting. And I started interviewing people who call themselves a multi-potentialite. And then COVID came and I was interviewing, and then things happened in the world. And at the same time, I was constantly interviewing multi-potentialites. That's how it all started. And a lot of other events. One of the events also was that I ended my relationship. I was living in Belgium, had to move to the Netherlands. I lost everything. I gave up everything. And I said, okay, I want to do a hard reset in my life. And sometimes people say, I lost everything. Seriously, I was homeless, just a bag and a dog, couldn't see my kids, nothing. And I thought, I'm going to start all over again. And I was always having all these expectations of myself. Yes, I was weird, but I was also trying to be as I was expecting from myself to behave and to be successful in this world. And then I said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I just want to be me. Let me be an artist, not an entrepreneur anymore. And I don't know where this is going, but this is what I need to do. And during these interviews, I discovered that a lot of multi-potentialites have a connection with neurodiversity. And I went to the Philips organization in the Netherlands and I asked them, can I have an MRI machine? Which they obviously didn't give to me. Like, who is this weirdo? Correct, that's me. But I want to know how the brain works, because what does it mean when you're wired differently? And why is the output multipotentiality? That's a question that I find very interesting. First of all, what is it when you're wired in a different way? Why is it that some people are highly sensitive or highly gifted or have ADHD or have dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, bipolar, autism? What is that? And why or many of these people have that output of doing multiple things, being fast learners, making connections that are very interesting. And why do they care more about the bigger picture in the world rather than being very linear and focused on their own success, money? And then I thought, oh, I did a hard reset anyway. I don't have anything. So what do when you don't have anything and you can just do whatever you want to do? You start a nonprofit. You start to do something that really matters, and that's 2 years ago, 2 years and a few months. And now we have 2,900 people in 65 countries connected to the Octopus Movement, and it's a global mycelium network community of very interesting people, a lot of hidden gems, and it's true. I always thought these are people that can make a huge difference in our lives. These are fascinating people, and they're not being seen that easily, because they don't fit in the box, and etc. etc. That's how I started the Octopus.
Good. I wanna, because I love how passionate you are, and I love the Octopus Movement and everything it stands for. But the people that are tuning in and for whom this is all new, I just want to take you along, because multi-potentialite, right? That's how you and I connected as well, because that's for sure something I recognize. And I just want to, if you're hearing this word for the first time, it basically means you have a very broad interest. You find very many things fascinating, and you know quite a bit of those things, but you do not have one singular focus where you know everything about. So that's like a generalist versus a very focused person. And I gotta tell you, many of my clients and many of the people I meet, sometimes they call themselves serial entrepreneurs, because they start multiple businesses because they know one thing and the next and the next. Very often those people are multi-potentialites as well. So just to start with that frame.
And a multi-potentialite learns very fast. This is something, that's why a lot of entrepreneurs are multi-potentialites. They will think, oh, I will figure it out. I don't know how this works, but how difficult can it be?
Yeah.
Let's go, right?
Yeah.
Let's just do it,
Yeah.
which is a very important element of entrepreneurship, is the just do it mentality and just go.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And then you discovered that many multipotentialites also are neurodiverse, and you already named several now. Oh gosh, these words. Neurodiversities like ADHD, autism, bipolar, dyslexia. And I feel very connected with that, because my daughter has the superpower of dyslexia. So there was another thing that we discussed about. And the Octopus Movement, I just want to emphasize this, because I think that so many people that are misunderstood and don't feel heard or seen or have been put on a label, because that's what often happens, right? Oh, so you're dyslexic. Oh, so you're bipolar. And then you kind of been put into a box, which isn't necessarily a nice box, and then everything kind of changes, whereas basically you just have a recognized superpower. So, and I feel that the Octopus Movement is the movement where people can really connect, whether you are subscribing to that label or not. But it is somewhere where you can really talk about you, whatever shape or form or headspace you come in. But that's what, for me, the Octopus Movement is.
Exactly. Okay. It's very non-linear. It's very, it's not a box. It doesn't have any rules. So there are no conditions to join the Octopus Movement. I remember so well, we have a partnership with an investment studio in California, and the owner said to me, Perry, what are the rules to become an octopus? And makes me laugh, because that's where I don't want to go. There are no rules. You can just join if you're curious. And then a lot of people, especially in the beginning, were saying, but what is the purpose? What are you doing? And I always said, I don't know what I'm doing. I just know that there is this massive group of people that should have more attention and more possibilities. And I was just thinking, what happens if you put these creative, fast learners together? Something amazing will happen. And so we're not thinking in boxes within the Octopus Movement. No.
I like that. And you're touching.
But we do have structure, so people don't think it's all woo-woo and one big mess. It's not. But it starts not with the system, and I think this is what's happening with a lot of entrepreneurs and new companies, is they start with a system. They, this is what I'm going to do, and we've been trained to do that at school. If you want to do something, you start with the system. This is how you operate. And I just wanted to let go of that system and say, okay, no, I consider myself as an artist, so I start with humans first and connect these amazing humans together, and then we will see what happens. And then you see that organically structures appear, and then you start using these structures to build on top of that and to create something beautiful. So I more or less turn it around, and I think in today's world, that's something that is very interesting to look at that.
And you're touching on something else that I think is really, very important. It's linear thinking versus non-linear thinking. And this is, for many people, it's not even a given, or they don't think about it. But talk to us a bit more about linear and non-linear.
I think if you understand this, that will change your life. This sounds horrible when I say that, but I mean it. If the difference between linear and non-linear thinking, everything changes. So I think everybody is a non-linear thinker. You're being born, you're a little baby, your brains are very non-linear, and then you end up in a household where mom and dad are very linear. So that already changes your way of thinking and your approach, right? And then parents saying no to the child constantly. So there's structure being built in. Then you go to school. Oh my God, that's a system. That's very linear, which is good. I'm not against linearity, but it's good to have a look at it. And then you follow the route of school and the linearity of school, and you get your diploma, and you go to college, and then you get your job and your spouse and your golden retriever and your 2.5 kids, and then everything is wonderful in life. Bullshit, of course. It's not true, but that's the linear approach. Then we have companies, organizations, governments, and whatnot in that linearity space as well. It's how the system works. And if you have a problem and you go to a company, then often when there is a problem, the response is, let me explain how our system
works. How we work.
This is how we work. Yes, so what? It doesn't change the problem. So now we go to nonlinear thinking. My brain is weird, is not standard. If you look at the bell curve, I'm not in the 80%, I'm in the 20% outside, in the fringes of the bell curve, right? It's my neurodiversity. But I think in today's world, we're using the word neurodiversity too often. Sorry for saying that. It's not about neurodiversity. It's just, I'm not in that standard bell curve.
Mm-hmm.
So I can join the linear thinking. I went to school, I went to college. It's fine, right? Found it very difficult, but I was able to manage here and there. So I can't help myself to constantly go back in that non-linear space where I see all kinds of things that other people can see. And I think that's the big difference between linear and non-linear. We try to adjust to be in that system, and we are. but we can't help ourselves to be outside of that system as well. So how does it help you? Well, I have 3 kids. They go to school. My kids are a bit neurodiverse as well. So when something is not working well, I now can see, okay, that's linear thinking. That's a system that doesn't fit with that non-linear brain. How can we talk about it? Rather than being upset, this is ridiculous, it makes sense. It also makes sense looking at myself that I'm sometimes all over the place and I have too much energy and I'm doing all these things and there's no structure and I'm enjoying it because it's my nonlinear brain that needs to explore everything and enjoying the emptiness in between thoughts as well. And for me, that's nonlinear thinking. And if I trust that, if I can serve that wave of nonlinear thinking, amazing things are happening. If you understand these two and you combine that and you use that, I use linear thinking as well. Of course, in creating a global movement, I have my Excel sheets, I have my Airtables. Everybody in the Octopus movement knows Perry loves his Airtables. It creates structure, but it's good to be aware of the linearity and the non-linearity in your own life and to understand your own brain. This is the thing I'm always saying when people ask me what is your advice. It's to understand your own brain. It's to understand your own thinking. It's to understand how nonlinear are you. Because if you're pretty nonlinear like me, and you have to be successful in this linear world, you better understand what's happening. Otherwise, you get very much frustrated, or you start masking. And that's what I've done many times. You try to adjust to fit in, but it's not who you are, and you're masking. And I see that happening with a lot of people that are wired differently. Then I mask because then at least people will
And I
recognize
feel,
me and approve me, and they see me, but that's not who I am.
yeah,
That's linear
yeah.
thinking.
Thank you for that explanation. And the one thing that I immediately think about is it's so fascinating because ever since I became a member of the Octopus movement and started hearing and thinking about linear and non-linear thinking, I actually did a discovery when I look back on all my current and my past clients that all my clients kind of in one shape or another are either non-linear thinkers, are multi-passionates, or have a neurodiversity. And I very much embrace it because for me it is all about, one of my core values is respect, which includes diversity and inclusivity, because that's the reason why I started my coaching business, to show you, my client, that you are good as you are. And it was such for me, it was really a full circle when, and we'll talk about this a bit more, but when we worked together to start this whole, discussion in a broader context with companies as well, that I thought about, it's interesting. I never thought about it. And to be honest, I don't care, because I really feel that you should use your strengths as an entrepreneur or as a human, because that's the way you're wired and that's the way it goes easier for you. And I think that's what you're saying. It's very important to recognize who you are, who you think, and what your strengths are. And that's why thinking differently or non-linear thinking is the number one skill in today's world. So talk to us, and I'm sharing all the comments as well, and I love them, so keep them coming, please. But share a bit about, the thing that's going to happen soon, the great questionnaire, and all the things that are happening around that.
Well, first I want to go back to the respect part, because that's not going very well. Let's be honest. Let's really look at the facts as they are. I do think that linearity is in chapter 11. I made a post about that recently on LinkedIn. And let me explain chapter 11. Chapter 11 is when you almost go bankrupt. Your company is almost dead, and it's the final rescue attempt. Everything stops. Everything is frozen. accountants, lawyers, senior management come together. How are we going to save this ship from sinking? And I think linearity is also going that way, because it's not going very well in this world with regards to respect. We're talking about respect, and we're talking about diversity, and it's all so interesting and so important, but it's not happening in the world. Look at in today's world, where people are struggling to pay for their grocery shopping, and the supermarkets have never ever made this much profit as they're doing right now. Recently in the Netherlands, there was at the government that the CEO of the biggest retail store had to come there and had to explain why his salary is 128 times bigger than the average salary in its own company, while there is a crisis, while the things are not going very well, but the shareholders' value is going through the roof. We're grabbing and going for the money. It's very, if I can use a bad word, fucking linear. It's one purpose, and it's going for that chunk of cash as much as possible, and we don't care about people. And then we pretend to be also into diversity and taking care of people. No, we're not. But then something else happens in the world, and there's AI, and AI is fantastic because AI is very, very linear by itself. It's the best linear assistant you can have. And now the whole world is in panic because so many people are losing their jobs, which are very linear jobs. So we need to look at creativity again. We need to look at, that's why thinking differently is the number one skill of today. I think today it's very important to be able to think outside of the box, to create new things, to create innovation, to help people grow, to look at humanity and look at this world. That's what I think is very important that we need to address. And sorry,
I was
go
going
ahead.
to say, I understand what you're saying, but I had it, me personally. This is my experience. This is my number one value. I hear you when you say, in general, in the world, there should be more respect. And yes, I think that's why this initiative is so great. But I was just talking about me, my respect, my values. I just want to.
No, clear. Yeah, but don't you agree that, a lot of people, we're talking about respect and it's also important, but then recently someone asked me this in an interview. It was an American company, a consultancy company, and I told them, and I said, we should create the non-linear manager everywhere.
Yes.
We should say, this is your position as a non-linear manager, and what you do is, when there is a circumstance that needs to be addressed differently, you're the one who's capable to say, okay, we're going to remove this from the system, and we're going to solve this as we should solve this, in a human way, in humanity, in decency, and then we continue. I get it. 80% fits into that system. Maybe 70%. Maybe, when we're honest, 60%. It should be so cool if we would have that in education, at companies, at governments. Just one person. Start with one person. The non-linear manager was saying, stop, let's disconnect, solve this, and connect again. That would be awesome. And I think then we're really talking about respect. Because now, there is a lot of respect as long as it fits the system. And that's not a good thing.
And isn't that why you started a new initiative? Because of this precise point?
To combine everything, the understanding yourself better, that's where it starts. You cannot sit on a chair and point fingers at everyone, and this is wrong, and this is wrong at education, and this is wrong in the world. That's not how it works for me. That's not how I feel that it works. You need to understand yourself first so you can do something about it for yourself, your direct family, your friends, or your community. Looking back at neurodiversity, I've always been intrigued by these labels and these boxes. And I thought, okay, you discover that you have ADHD. Now what? You get that official label or not. Maybe you don't get an official
Yeah.
label. Maybe you just think, I think I have ADHD, which for me is already enough. You don't have to go to see the doctor and get the label. If that's how you feel about it, go for it.
Hmm.
And how fascinating and how easy and how straightforward would it be to be just connect with someone else who has ADHD, or connect with another parent whose child has dyslexia, or connect with someone else who feels like it's a multi-potentialite or a non-linear thinker. So we go broader than just the official linear approach of neurodiversity. Everything that makes us who we are because of our thinking and our being. And I thought, how cool would that be to create a platform where we can make that connection very easily? So now there's this project sponsored and made it possible by the European Union. How cool is that? We're creating Pick My Neurodiverse Brain to make it more accessible. So people with neurodiversity or think they have neurodiversity or want to be close to neurodiversity, that able to talk to someone with ADHD. So you have ADHD yourself, you can talk to someone else with ADHD, or you're a parent and your child just got the label of dyspraxia, and you're like, and now what? You can talk to someone about that, because I don't know how it is with you, everybody who's listening all over the world, but in the Netherlands, the waiting lists to see a specialist are ridiculous.
Yes.
You want to get some answers fast. You discovered your child has dyspraxia. What does it mean? And now what? So you want to talk about it to someone who understands and who knows. So pickmynneurodiversebrain.com is a project of the Octopus Movement to make it much easier to talk to other people and talk about the diversity of the brain in a non-linear way. So not, you don't have to have neurodiversity. And we also talk about non-linear thinking, multipotentiality, and lots of other things.
I love that. Okay, so there is a lot going on, right? We've thrown out so many terms today. We spoke about linear thinking, non-linear thinking, neurodiversity, multipotentialite, the overarching movement, which is the octopus movement, and I'll talk about it a bit more. And if you feel, and you're watching this and you feel like, wow, I want to know more, the octopus movement is really a great place to start. I'll share the link just now. And Pick My Neurodiverse Brain is going to build, and the way I see it, is going to build a bridge. That's really what it's gonna, it's gonna help. I'm a firm believer in that. It's gonna be a help. It's gonna be a place where you can speak with people. And is the website already in the air, or is it coming soon?
Not yet. You can already go to pickmynneurodiversebrain.com and it redirects to the Octopus Movement.
Right.
We're creating a toolkit. So, hey, there is neurodiversity. Now what? So the toolkit will give you some tools in what to do with that. And we're also creating a introduction course. What does a diverse brain means? And we're working together with Atlas Primer. And I want to do a shout out for Atlas Primer. It's such a cool company in Iceland. They created an app. This was created by a professor at the university, and he was an entrepreneur first in IT. Then he went into the university, became a professor, and he was looking at these students, and he was thinking, really, this is how you study, but this is not very efficient. This should be done in a different way. So he created an app where you can upload your study materials, your book text, whatever, and it goes text to voice. And then you're thinking, oh, it's not that spectacular. It is. Trust me, it is. It's easy to upload PDF files and whatnot, and you can scan your text and put it in the app. But then something really cool happens. They connect it to an AI machine at the back end. So that means you can listen to your study material and then after chapter 1 say, okay, ask me 4 questions if I really understand what I was just listening to. So you can have interaction with your study material, which is awesome. And you can go on and on and on. You can do that with your teacher. You can say, ask me 2 questions if I really understand. But if you do that 6 times in a row and you're asking constantly for different questions, your teacher is going to say, hey, listen, this is self-study. Go home, open your book and make it work. But this app continues and continues and continues. Awesome. So we're using Atlas Primer for introduction training to neurodiversity, where you can listen to a lot of information about neurodiversity and you can ask questions. You can ask, but what is ADHD? What is bipolar exactly? Awesome.
I love it. Okay. So the octopus movement, you just tell us about why it's an octopus, because I love that.
Here it is. So I was, and I think Haley is listening. It's a story I always tell, but this is how it happened. So I was interviewing a lot of multi-potentialites, and I was at Clubhouse. And language for me is very linear as well. So the same thing with the community. I rather use the word mycelium. Same thing with multipotentiality. It boxes off again. So if you have a polymath and you say to a polymath, hey, you're a multipotentialite, then the polymath is offended. And I find that so weird in life, that for some reason we're so afraid of our own freedom that we put ourselves in a box. And if you don't call my box the correct way, I get offended and I'm in a fight with you. So I was thinking, I don't want to use just multipotentialite, scanner, zebra, whatever. I'm looking for, hi Haley, I'm there. I'm looking for I'm looking for the symbol of a curious misfit. And I was asking that after interviewing more than 100 multipotentialites. And I noticed that they're all curious misfits. They're all a bit weird and they're all curious as hell. Incredible. That's what we all have in common. And then Christine in London said to me, I always send an octopus emoji just for the fun of it. I said, but why? She said, well, it just feels good. Maybe because she's Greek or whatever, but she was always sending an octopus or a squid. But a squid, the squid movement, no. Octopus, I thought, octopus, that's a cool creature. And then Haley in South Africa said, have you seen My Octopus Teacher? Well, that's a awesome, fucking beautiful documentary that everybody should watch. It's so interesting. And that filmmaker is so non-linear, and he got into a burnout. He went back home in South Africa, and he wanted to be underwater every day to calm his mind and his brain and to think. And then he got into that relationship with the octopus. After watching that documentary, he said, well, this is it. It's the octopus movement. Why the octopus? 3 hearts, 9 brains, 8 arms. It can transform in any shape. It can change color. It has a complete weird DNA, totally different from whatever animal. So some people call them also aliens. They have blue blood. They have suckers. I can all relate to that. I feel like an alien from time to time. It feels like I have 8 arms because I'm doing all these different things at the same time. 3 hearts. I'm an emotional sucker and lots of empathy. And 9 brains. I love learning. I love connecting, and etc. So that's why it's the octopus movement. Thanks to Haley and Christine.
Good. And if anybody wants to join the movement, is there a cost involved? How does it work?
No. So no rules. Just join the octopus movement. And then you would say, but why would I do that? Well, first of all, if you are feeling a bit weird, then you're in a bunch of other a bit weird people, which is a lot of fun because you can be yourself. Forget masking, be yourself. And why is that cool? Well, you can, for instance, join our global think tank. We created a think tank because I was thinking, what happens if you put these different thinkers together and you brainstorm to create something new, a new approach to a global problem? We have been working and trying out for a year, and then after a year we created a system what works for nonlinear thinkers. We do this every month. 1 hour the first day, second hour the second day, and then we write a white paper. It's so much fun. It is incredible. So you have the global nonlinear brain out there where you can tap into, and that's the think tank. Recently, we wrote the white paper, uh, Rethinking Intelligence, where we have this study where we're looking at it at intelligence as nonlinear thinkers. What does it mean? How do we see intelligence? Is how we see intelligence today still the same intelligence as yesterday and tomorrow? So when you join the Octopus Movement, you can join the think tank, but you can also become a teacher where we go to schools and teach about nonlinear thinking to kids. But you can also become an octopus specialist because we combine all these skills in the movement to do awesome projects and to create things and so many more things. And we love art. We have our own art gallery. So if you're an artist and you think, oh, I want to exhibit within the art gallery, that's also possible. We do retreats, we do trainings, we have brain lunches within the Octopus Movement. Everything is for free. And if you say, but I do want to donate and I do want to be someone very special within the movement, you can become a founding member. It's a one-time donation of 200 euros and you're a founding member for life. We will only have 250 founding members in total in the movement. We have 64 now. You will be on the website and you are being invited every month to hang out with the other founding members and yours truly and have fun. And we discover things from each other. We help each other. We help each other to make new connections, solve problems, introduce people to others. It's the founding members. I always see it like a family table at Sunday evening. Everybody comes home, it's chaos, but it's so much fun at the same time and so familiar. And that's the hangout sessions of the founding members every month.
I love that. Okay. So when people want to join, they become an octovist?
Exactly. And it's thanks to your daughter. We call it an octovist. And I was talking to someone, Yvonne, you should have heard that conversation that we were saying to each other. Why haven't we thought about this octovists? It's so why an octovist? You're in the Octopus Movement and you're an activist. We want to do something. We don't want to just sit still and network. I'm not a big fan of networking, and I get it. You're an entrepreneur, you need to network. Maybe I should create another name for it, then it feels different for me. Maybe for me it's connecting to the mycelium all over the world, that we know each other and support each other. And that's why we call it an octovist. It's an activist within the Octopus Movement to create a better world, to use our thinking, to use our brains, to support each other, to create something beautiful, projects, thinking, white papers, and grow.
I love that. I think this is a great close. Thank you so much, Perry, for being here. If you watch this, thank you for being here. If you have any queries, list them underneath whatever platform you're on, or join us in the Octopus Movement because we're waiting for you. And Perry, as always, thank you so much. My pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.